Hello, I'm Stephen Dracup, CEO at Chess, and I'm very pleased to introduce John Waters from Virtual One, who's going to speak to you today about advanced networking. Virtual One have been well known for their cutting-edge network for many years, and since they joined up with TalkTalk Group last year, they've built on TalkTalk's infrastructure to significantly expand both their reach and their scale. Chess have been a key partner of both Virtual One and TalkTalk for many years, and excited by the combination of innovation and scale that the expanded network brings to the market. John has been at Virtual One since 2011, and I've known him personally for quite a long time as well. And he certainly knows his way around the subject. So I'm delighted to hear what he has to say about advanced networking. Over to you, John.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And as always, a pleasure to support any chess technology event. So I thought I'd start at a bit of a global level first, Stephen. And it is an interesting, exciting, challenging world that we find ourselves in, constantly impacted by change, and how we respond and adapt as individuals, as businesses, as technology providers is important, and it also creates good opportunity. So global warming is very likely to mean mini heat waves and probably some quite torrential storms for the UK. So these are extremes that we need to prepare for and we need to adapt to in our personal and our working lives. Post-COVID-19, as we know, had a huge impact on economies, on supply chain, but it also meant for us as suppliers changes in consumer behavior, and businesses needed to adapt to the way of working, but also to, importantly, where we work today. And I'll say, Stephen, that today's WAN is no exception to change. We must, as upline vendors, respond to demand from your customers for better and indeed more predictable user experience. Having a dive into network services, we, Chess, TalkTalk Virtual One, we provide over 100,000 businesses with connectivity, everything from broadband to high capacity Ethernet and everything in between. We also provide resilient solutions, and that includes our cellular portfolios as well. With software-defined networking, which is a pretty significant investment, this is aimed at automating tasks, and a couple of easy examples are bandwidth increases or adding extra IP addresses for compatible circuits. Being able to do these things in real time is significant. Privately extending the heart of our network to leading platforms for cloud, UC and SIP directly connects the customer supply chain to the network. Let's take this a stage further and then start to overlay additional functionality with security and SD-WAN managed services. We're now bringing network level DDoS as an opportunity, next generation firewalls, whether they are physical or virtual appliances on customer premises or cloud-based, and overlaying application performance technology, aka that thing we call SD-WAN. Now the relationship between the users and the application hosts can be public, it can be private, and indeed it can be hybrid. Importantly, we can secure it and we can optimize it. So let's have a think about how business uses the internet, and it's an interesting question for all of your customers to consider. It's essentially a transportation layer connecting users to application hosts and business tools that we and customers rely on. I'd like to summarize those environments into what we call the service edge, and a business may have many service edges. And just because things are in the cloud doesn't by default mean that content is safe. I will touch on malware, Stephen, in a moment when we look at managed security. So security today for your customers means that the threat landscape is ever increasing, and businesses not only need to be busy protecting all of their assets and data around that landscape. Fundamentally important is robust security is only as good as its recent firmware updates, so regular updates are mission critical. A back to basics call to action really for all customers is to consider this. There is a trend developing, and especially perhaps post-COVID, with businesses experiencing a lack of trained staff and the unfortunate global skills gap that we're experiencing means that outsourcing to manage security for reliance on tested, automated, scheduled firmware updates is absolutely a trend that we don't see slowing down. And it's not just about managed security, it's about the speed and machine learning. I'm not going to steal any thunder. I know you have a very interesting panel debate coming up on artificial intelligence, but I guess a couple of key points from me, Stephen. Artificial intelligence is, unfortunately for us, for our businesses, fueling the significant increase in the volume of highly sophisticated cyber attacks. Malware, as I mentioned when we talked about cloud, is growing at a prolific rate. Absolutely is not going to be slowing down. And the inspection of those packets, the fundamental function of security platforms, that puts a lot of stress on those security processes. So leading security vendors are using artificial intelligence to power something called machine learning. Machine learning drives machine speed, because today we need to be able to prevent zero-day attacks in machine time. As a business, Chess customers, we want to reduce your exposure to cyber threats, and we want to protect your business reputational risk as well. A trend that we are seeing is businesses looking at the performance metrics of security of plants and investing in higher specification, future-proof the throughput. Also looking, and we are developing scalable cloud security platforms that grow with the business and that ever-increasing bandwidth to those service edges. And as we said, managed service, and this is for both network security and also for endpoint protection. We partner, as you probably expect, at Chess and TalkTalk Virtual One with Gartner Magic Quadrant leaders for next generation firewalls, network security, and for SD-WAN. Having next generation firewalls that are application aware, what we call SD-WAN capable, can provide really valuable insight to businesses and really assist in decision making. So knowing how we use bandwidth is important, and I think a lot more conversations, Stephen, with your customers will develop a broader understanding of what bandwidth requirements are and also how we try and optimize that end user experience. SD-WAN, what's at the heart of it, is aimed at problem solving and better experience. So being able to prioritize one or many applications on a single uplink or steer traffic across multiple uplinks, use all of your bandwidth at the same time if you want to, regardless of the underlying infrastructure provider, and also regardless of whether it's public or private, broadband or Ethernet. Working from home, absolutely, as I mentioned at the beginning, not showing any signs of slowdown. It prevents quite significant challenges, whether you have a handful of remote devices in your estate or tens of thousands. Again, these contribute to the business expanding attack surface, as we call it. They need machine speed for endpoint detection and response, paramountly important in the world that we live in. So I would summarize all of this, Stephen, by saying that wherever customers' business assets and data are, wherever those service edges are, the network foundation is paramountly important. We need to protect that attack surface and do it well. By having appliances that enable us to overlay application performance technology, we turn SD-WAN capable devices into SD-WAN enabled appliances. Again, as we've said, designed at improving that end user experience when we understand the business outcomes. And remote devices, as we've talked about, they need secure access to wherever the service edges are, and that machine speed is paramount for today's endpoint detection and response demands. So we can start the journey of adapting to change and delivering better end user experience. And a bit of guidance is to absolutely, regardless of where you are on your journey around SD-WAN, whether you haven't heard of it until today or you're finding out a bit of information, or perhaps you're quite well advanced but want to review connectivity with Chess, absolutely engage. And what I would call a discovery session is always pretty informative. It helps Chess and us better understand you as a business. It enables you to leverage our expertise and that of upline vendors as well. and we'll help you evaluate current and emerging technology. Professional services is what scopes out and it produces design documents that make intentions and outcomes very clear around what we're trying to achieve. And once you're ready to adopt SD-WAN technology, we enable you to do so at a pace that's right for your business. You might have just one application that you want to prioritize today, or you might have quite a complex and interesting suite of requirements. By templating builds, it means that zero-touch provisioning or zero-touch deployment is, Stephen, a real thing that we can actually deliver. It is useful for businesses that want to scale up their operations and add another 10, 20, 30, 100 sites into the network. It's also, as we know, very useful for businesses that have rapid deployment requirements. If the build is templated, it really is quite easy to get the appliance to site, connect it, pull down its performance instructions, and off we go. Once services are running, I think it is imperative that businesses actually review and tune their SD-WAN solution. Not every business gets it right first time round. So have a look at security ratings, as we call them. Make sure that security posture is right. And also have a look at your, as we call them, SD-WAN policies and dials that we can turn to try and help you further optimize that end user experience. It's unlikely that your business is going to stand still, as we've talked about change quite a bit today. So whether you are adding or changing the way that your sites work, whether you are developing or investing in new applications and new service edges, the whole idea of SD-WAN and with Chess and ourselves is that your network solution evolves as you do. Stephen, I'm going to hand back to you. Any final comments or indeed any questions if time allows?
And I think what was interesting, sort of many things were interesting, but what sort of jumped out at me, particularly towards the end of the presentation, was the relationship selling that you were talking about, in kind of how you go about doing what you do. And I think it's really important that for an organization like Chess, who partners with other people, to make sure that sort of our values are aligned. And the graphic to the right of this slide shows, in the middle, shows how we interact with customers. So we consult with them, help you understand and design out your business problems. We deliver solutions, we help you adopt those solutions, and then we support them. And that's a bit like John's graphic a second ago. It's a kind of a virtuous circle where we keep on tuning and supporting and consulting and adopting. Because I think the one thing that's really jumped out at us all over the last few years is that change is ever present, and it's very, very hard to predict the future. But while I'm on the subject of the future, John, I suppose the thing that I was kind of just wondering what you see, you've mentioned AI a couple of times, you've talked about adapting to change, but what do you see as a sort of big next change that's coming down the road that when we're looking at networks, we ought to be thinking about?
Good question. And yeah, change is ever present. We have mutually quite exciting roadmaps. I think at vendor level, it is more advanced use of AI, this machine learning, machine speed. It's absolutely paramount that we keep on top of these security threats. And as we said, with work from anywhere, we need tools that not only detect but remediate in real time, in machine time. I think also too, Stephen, that enables us to have a look at tools at customer level, to be able to have a look at that granular visibility, everything in one place, easy to consume information. What's going on right now in my network? What do I need to be aware of? What do I need to respond to? What changes do I need to make? So I think certainly portal developments, and we have portal obviously on the network slide. That's very much our relationship. But I think making tools more readily available and easy to consume for customers is certainly a journey that I know we are interested on going on at TalkTalk and Chess, for the benefit of a large business community that we're servicing.
Great, thank you. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of the 15-minute slot. So it's been short and sweet. So thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much, John. And I hope you found it useful.